Good afternoon. It is Thursday, March 4th, 2010. Well, today I want to briefly respond to this nationwide protest that is going on college campuses relating to the recent tuition hikes. I believe schools such as University of California at Berkeley have increased tuition by close to 30%. Some of the other schools are increasing tuition rates as well. And so students, I believe, in 100 different on 100 different college campuses across the country are protesting these hikes. Now, before I critique the protests, I just want to explain that I understand why some of you are very upset. These are hard times, and a lot of you who are participating in these protests might be struggling to make ends meet, and so I understand why you're upset. There's no question that a tuition hike as high as 20-30% could really could hit you really hard. And I also understand the frustration coming from many of the protesters that we don't cut in other areas first. For example, all the wars overseas that I talk about all the time on this blog, we can make some massive cuts there. We spend $1 trillion overseas every year on our world empire. We could cut the war on drugs, or at least legalize marijuana, which would save billions of dollars, not only bringing in new revenue into the state governments which fund these schools, but saving a lot of money on prisons. Remember, the prison population is just full of nonviolent drug offenders. So there are other ways that we could save money than attacking education. So I understand those arguments, but what I want you all to do is try to see the argument from the other side, and that is the fact that college budgets are not so good right now. Colleges can't afford to hire new professors. They're having to cut classes. They're having to cut corners all over the place. And so they need a tuition hike in a lot of ways to fund or to hire these new teachers and expand their programs. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. I mean, if you want if you want a good quality education, the fact of the matter is, in these times, you're going to have to pay a little extra for it. And I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is a recession. This is a depression. That's what happens in these kind of economic times. I mean, students, you all are not the only ones who are struggling right now. I mean, the entire country is struggling. People in the private sector are struggling. They've gotten laid off. So are you all entitled to special privileges just because you're in college? I think that's a bit arrogant. Maybe there's a better word for that, but I mean, these are hard times. State budgets, if you haven't noticed, I mean, California is bankrupt. There's talk of a federal bailout of California, which, by the way, I completely oppose. Other states are struggling. North Carolina, my home state, is struggling right now. So, I mean, what's your alternative? Yes, I understand. Let's cut in other areas, okay? But how are you? If you want a quality education, how do you expect for the university to provide for that if they're not allowed to raise your tuition rates? Especially in an atmosphere where prices have gone up anyway. The price of everything's gone up to a degree over the last year. So tuition rates need to go up. So again, college budgets, they need the tuition hikes. The state budgets, I mean, there's several states going bankrupt. They need the extra revenue to fund these schools. And then my final point, I mean, I think one of the big problems with our generation, meaning people who have been born in the 70s onward, is that we feel that we are entitled to everything. And when you watch these student protests, I mean, you just get this feeling in the air that all of these students think it's me, me, me. me, and they're completely oblivious to what's going on around them, completely oblivious to the economic crisis, completely oblivious to the state budget crisis, completely oblivious to the fact that their college or university cannot hire any new professors because there's not enough money at the school. Completely oblivious to the rising prices that compel actions like this. Our generation, we think we're entitled to health care. We're entitled to Social Security. We're entitled to a college education. We're entitled to a house. We're entitled to this. We're entitled to that. No. We're entitled to 3 things and 3 things only: life, liberty, and property. After that, you're on your own. Those are the only natural rights that we have as individuals. We do not have a right to a college education. And I know that's unpopular to say. I'm in college right now, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues would be horrified to hear me say something like that, but I think it's absolutely true. You do not have a right to a college education. You have to work hard to get there, and if that means you have to pay a little more, then that means you have to pay a little more. That means you have to work harder in high school to get accepted into a university because they're not able to admit as many students, and so be it. Maybe we have too many people getting undergraduate degrees. I don't know. I was a TA for several years teaching undergrads, and some of these undergraduate students were less intelligent than my high school students back when I taught in the mid-2000s. So it's a complicated issue, and I understand where the students are coming from, and these are hard times, and it sucks to have your tuition hiked that much, but you have to deal with reality, and that's the reality of things. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm on spring break next week, speaking of college, and I'll be working on my dissertation, which, by the way, is on the Panic of 1819 and Jackson's war against the bank and some of those other issues. So I'm working on that right now. So if you're in college and you have spring break next week, enjoy your break. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.